94. And truly, if you followed the laws and recommendations of the primal wellspring of all wisdom creation, then you would receive a magnificent reward as thanks, and your life would be an honorable pleasure if you would only guide yourselves onto the right path of truth. 95. Anyone who is diligent obedient to the teaching of the prophets, the teaching of truth, the teaching of spirit, the teaching of life will always be amongst those who gain grace, kind-heartedness, and love in life, and in whom there will be freedom and peace, and therefore also consonance harmony. And whoever follows the truth will comprehend, understand the truthfulness of the true prophets, of the fair ones, responsible ones, and will see their signs, marvels, and enjoy their great wisdom. Truly they will also have the true prophets as their best companions and teachers, because true kind-heartedness emanates from them. 96. And those amongst you who know about the truth always take precautions so that you are not alone amongst the mass of the unknowing ones in the truth, but that there are always several of you, in droves or many together, so that you are not annoyed, harassed/victimized by the believers in gods and in gods, so that you may be connected to the truth and prudence, and without peevishness. Consider that dwelling living alone as someone knowing in the truth in a minority amongst a large mass of people brings disaster, because the superiority of the number of the unknowing ones in the mass of the people is always boundless in its intemperateness, successiveness, against any small number minority. Therefore, as ones who are knowing in the truth, you shall not stand out imprudently amongst the collection mass of the people who are knowing in the truth, but only raise up the word of truth and teach the teaching of truth, the teaching of spirit, the teaching of life where it is asked for and desired, so that you do not commit misfeasance, proselytizing, and do not do the same as the obligations, sects and religions, who look for and lure, bewitch/ensnare believers with lying, deceit and delusion in order to exploit them, beat them into subservience, and rob them of their own will and their own responsibility. 97. There are some amongst you who grow weak, faint-hearted, and lag behind, depraved in misery, if misfortune befalls you, but as you learn through the teaching of truth, the teaching of spirit, the teaching of life which is explained to you by the teaching of the prophets, then you will be full of energy and full of power, and will be strong, so that you know how to overcome even the worst disaster without breaking down. 98. And there are some amongst you who are boisterous if good fortune befalls you, and you want to have more in the irrationality of your small thinking and in your greed. And if you gain profit from a deal with one of your kind fellow human being, then you are robbing, plundering that person for your own benefit advantage. Therefore you cannot achieve any friendship between that person and yourselves. And truly, if you would recognize those in friendship with whom you are conducting a deal, then you would achieve great successes. 99. And those amongst you who are connected to the real truth, and therefore to the teaching of the prophets, only ever allow fair ones, responsible ones, and ones who are knowing in the truth to fight with the weapons of honesty, equitableness, fairness, virtues, respect and deference for the truth of the primal power creation, and its laws and recommendations, and never be foolish enough to throw away your mortal earthly life because of the truth, because it is better to be quiet and silent, and to keep the truth only within you, so that your adversaries do not bring you affliction and do not endanger your life. Therefore, because you fight only in yourselves alone for the truth of the primal power creation, and thus for the teaching of truth, a magnificent reward will be granted to you, and that true love and peace will prosper within you, and you will be the beneficiaries of freedom and consonance harmony within your inner nature. 100. But what is the matter with those amongst you who do not fight for the cause of the truth, nor for the teaching of truth, the teaching of spirit, the teaching of life, and therefore not for the teaching of the wellspring of all wisdom creation, which is given by its laws and recommendations? And what is the matter with you who do not fight for the interests of the weak and the poor and needy, the women, the men and the children who would like to be led out from their neediness and their misery and away from their precious tyrants/despots. Truly, you are neither protectors nor helpers for them, because you leave them to waste away in their misery, but you will reap a disastrous reward for this. 101. Those amongst you who know about the truth of the wellspring of all origin creation. You are fighting with the weapons of truth, love and consonance harmony, and in peace and freedom for its cause. You, however, who are knowing and unfair ones, irresponsible ones, you are fighting with the sword, and therefore with all weapons of death for the cause of evil, for the lie and untruth, but you are fighting a hopeless fight as the friends of evil, whose generalship is death and ruin and destruction. 102. Curb your hands with holding the sword that you are wielding against the truth in your battle against it, because you are afraid of it and your fear grows ever greater. Truly, the laws and recommendations of the primal wellspring creation do not decree any fight with Gevalt of weapons in order to murder, rather they demand love and peace so that you may live in freedom and harmony. 103. Terminate your fight against the truth, because those amongst you who fight against the truth with the sword and other weapons of death, truly your benefit, will only be slight and of short duration. Therefore it is better for you to turn to the truth and its teaching in deference, so that you no longer spread a single iota of non-right. 104. Be certain, knowing that wherever you may be, that you cannot escape death, because it will befall you even though you may be inside the most strongly built tower. Therefore heed death wherever you may be, so that it seizes you in right deeds rather than non-right deeds, and think at all times about death, and learn that it is unavoidable and that you are bound to it, as is everything that lives and crawls and flies, so that you are not frightened when you stand before it and have to leave your life. 105. And consider, if goodness that makes you glad happens to you in life or dying, that, if it does not come from outside, it comes from your changed conduct of life, as it also is if bad befalls you in life or dying and you are afraid. Truly, every one of your kind human beings, and therefore all people, will always get what they merit because of what they have earned, whether it be good or evilly, if only you would understand this. 106. Whatever goodness you get, all of it comes from your good mentality, just as everything terrible that strikes you comes from your own mentality. Truly, you are yourselves your own prophets, as you allot determine yourselves in all things of your life and announce what redounds to your benefit or harm, and for this you are your own witnesses. 107. If you direct yourselves in free determination decision, willingly and knowingly, consciously, towards the teaching of the prophets, their teaching of truth, their teaching of spirit, their teaching of life, then you are indeed guiding yourselves towards the teaching of the laws and recommendations of the primal wellspring of all existence creation. Yet if you all direct yourselves in free determination decision, willingly and knowingly, consciously, away from the teaching of truth, then you make yourselves into guardians of untruth and evil. 108. Forced obedience is not the guideline leading thought of the teaching of truth, the teaching of spirit, the teaching of life. Rather, it is freedom of volition, in order to comprehend the truth in the freedom of volition and to understand it so that it may be accepted in the freedom of volition and that life may be led and managed with it. 109. Be certain, knowing that those amongst you who regard a guideline leading thought of the teaching of truth as coercion, you are feigning and are swearing falsely by day that you are connected to the truth and its teaching, but at night you turn away from it and strive to slander, calumniate, and destroy it. But your reward for this will be full of a disaster. It is better for you not to concoct attacks against the teaching of truth, but to be honestly connected to it and build upon it, so that you may be bearers of trust for the truth.